What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Lord Solar Prime, and today, guys, we're gonna be covering my first place deck profile for Jurax. I took it to locals, and the event I entered in was the World Championship 2025 celebration event. I ended up coming in first place with this deck, and it really surprised me. It's been surprising me all format. Hence, I've been getting first place at least 2 or 3 locals that I've been going to. So I'm very proud of what this deck has been able to accomplish inside of the Justice Harness format. Now, ironically, Jurracs and me have a bit of history. My first ever video on YouTube when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh! And covering Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards has been about Jurax. So when Battle of Legends came out, I decided to build a deck just to see what the deck could do, just to, you know, revisit some nostalgia from my past. And things worked out very, very well. So I really want to show you guys what I've been playing this format. I know I've been a little bit quiet, but I have been playing this format a lot. So let's go ahead and get into it. And you guys already know what it is. If you guys like what you see, hit the like button. If you guys have something to say, leave a comment down below. And if you know somebody that might be interested in this video, how about you share this video with them? Without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and show you my first place deck profile with Jurax. All right, here we are with the Jurax of my deck list. This is your typical 11 card wash that you're gonna see in most deck lists. You might see 12 with the increase of Jurac Volcano to 3. I tried it at 3, didn't care for it, but all in all, this is pretty much your standard lineup for Jurax. I know a lot of builds do not play Jurac Impact, but what I found is Jurac Impact is so critical for when you cannot get the second Astero in the grave. You're able to rely on Jurac Impact to cause a disruption for your opponent. So let's go ahead and talk about what the Juracs actually do. But before we do that, shout outs to Charles, Roland, and Olivier. But let's get into Jurac Stego. So Jurac Stego, what he says is, once per turn, you can destroy any card you control. It could be himself or another card. To then send a dinosaur from your deck to the graveyard and special summon Jurac monsters up to the level of the sent monster sent to the graveyard. When I say by monster, I meant by dinosaur. You can send a dinosaur to the graveyard. So in most instances, you will be sending Jurac Stego if you have not already pitched for Misc effect. But if you had not, you can send Misc for this effect to special summon out 4 level 1 Jurac monsters by the effect of Jurac Stego. Now, Jurac Stego also has a hidden effect that I do utilize a lot, and it has a non-targeting spin effect when it's destroyed by battle. So if you guys are facing a opponent's monster where it's kind of hard or kind of sticky on the board, you can just run your Jurac Stego into that monster and spin it back to your opponent's hand. I found that to be very, very useful throughout my testing. Moving on from Stego, of course, that's your 1-card starter. We have your extender of the deck, which is going to be Jurac Megalo. So if you guys control a face-up dinosaur, you can special summon this card from your hand. And once he's on the field, if you guys so happen to have open with maybe Stego in your hand that you didn't want to normal summon over Oviraptor, you can use the effect of Megalo to send 2 cards from your hand. One of them have to be a Jurac card, so it could be a spell or a trap, but most of the time it's probably could be a monster. But you can send those cards to the graveyard to then draw 2 fresh cards from your deck, which is very, very good. I had a lot of people ask that effect, which I'm like, yes. I really didn't care, you know, whether or not it went through or not. So I actually do like that effect a lot. Now, the other effect, which is probably the most important effect that this card has, is when this card is destroyed, you can send a Jurac monster from your deck or extra deck to the grave. Now, your primary target, 9 times out of 10, is always going to be your Jurac Astero from the extra deck to send him to the grave to make him live on your opponent's turn. So getting him destroyed is a very, very critical effect for this deck. Moving on to Jurac Aleo. Jurac Aleo is here to help you synchro climb. When you do the effect of Stego and you special summon out 2 Megalos and 2 Aleos. So what Elio does is a none once per turn effect. You can tribute this card to special summon a Jurac monster from your graveyard, which has to be level 4 or lower. So typically you would special summon these 4 cards out, so 2 Megalos, 2 Elios, and then you would use the effect of Elio to tribute himself to special summon your Jurac Stego from the grave, and then you would synchro from that point there. Really, really good card, guys. Moving on to Jurac Volcano. This card alone is very, how can I say, very critical to your inboard. Whether or not you do your full setup or not, this card here kind of puts your opponent on notice. What I mean by that is, let's just talk about it. So when it's on the field, you can destroy any dinosaur you control to special summon a Jurac monster from your deck. So if you guys open with Megalo and Volcano, you guys can normal summon the Megalo, activate Volcano. Volcano destroys Megalo to special summon out your Stego. On a separate chain, Megalo effect would then activate, sending your Jurac Astero to the grave, prepping it for your opponent's turn. So right there, that's already good value. Now, the other part of Jurac Volcano is that your opponent has 1 special summon and a chance to activate 4 monster effects before the activation of this card, which allows you to special summon 1 Jurac Meteor from your extra deck. And it's treated as a synchro summon. As you guys know, when Jurac Meteor is synchro summoned, it destroys all cards on the field. So initially, or essentially, this is your field card Nibiru for the Jurac deck, which is very, very cool. And the last effect for this card, if Jurac monsters would be destroyed, you can banish 1 dinosaur from your graveyard instead. So let's just say you have a field full of Jurac monsters and you actually summon a Jurac Meteor or Dark Hole, somehow plays a role, or even Jurac Impact. You can save all your Jurac monsters by banishing 1 dinosaur from your graveyard, which can help with OTKing your opponent. So that does it for Jurac Volcano. It's a very good card. Even if you break, it's a very good card. Moving on to Jurac Impact. We touched on this earlier. Jurac Impact, all it says is if you control a dinosaur monster with 2,500 or more attack, destroy cards on the field. Most of our, well, all of our synchro monsters in this version of our deck have 2,500 attack. So this card is relatively live at the end of your combos and passing it into your opponent's turn. So this card is always live, and you would search it after you guys have access to Jurac Volcano, because Jurac Volcano is just so much value on your opponent's turn. But Jurac Impact is always a good board ender when you get a chance to synchro summon for 2 Jurac Asteros in 1 turn. Typically games 2 and 3, I'm siding this card out immediately. I just don't want to see it in games 2 and 3, but game 1 situations, I think it's pretty legit to keep in there. So this does it for the Jurac monsters. Let's now go discuss the rest of the dinosaurs and the dinosaur support cards that help this Jurac deck out immensely. All right, here we are with the rest of the dinosaur support for my Jurac deck. Most of this stuff pretty much doesn't need to be explained. Maybe the interactions that these cards provide with the Juracs needs to be fleshed out a little bit more, and that's the part I'm gonna focus on the most. So let's go ahead and get started. So we got, first up is 1 UTC. UTC is your main deck boss monsters. Most of my Infernova fans out there will quickly recognize that, you know, he's basically your Immortal Phoenix Gearfree of the deck. Moving on, we have 1 Meteorosaurus and 1 Megalo Smasher. We're gonna talk about these as a pair because Meteorosaurus effect actually brings Megalo Smasher to the field. But let's talk about Xeno right quick. So if any card will be destroyed by battle or by a card effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. Now, once it's on the field, you have a chance to destroy a dinosaur on the field or within your hand to special summon out a normal dinosaur from your deck. So it can be Megalo Smasher or any other normal monster that you guys might be playing. I have explored options of playing the level 6 dinosaur, the fire one. But ultimately, I decided against that because it's not what I wanted to utilize his effect truly for. I wanted to actually make the synchro version of that play. So I decided with Megalo Smasher X. So once you get Megalo Smasher X on the field along with Meteorosaurus, now the fact that you was able to destroy a dinosaur on the field or in the hand is really good, because if you're holding on to a Megalo in hand, you can destroy this in hand to special summon out your Megalo Smasher X, while also triggering the effect of Megalo in the graveyard to send you a Stero. That's going to be a reoccurring thing with the rest of the support here when it comes to utilizing the old dinosaurs with Jurax. Even UTC can get away with destroying your Megalo in rough times. I've done it maybe once, and I never need to do it much more than that, because typically when he's coming out, that's pretty much the end of the game. Moving on, we also have Miscellaneousaurus, which needs no introduction. This card is at 1. I cannot foresee Konami moving this up on the ban list to anything other than what it is right now, which is 1. I know Master Duel is at 3, but you know, just imagine being able to play in main phase 1 unhindered while you're synchro climbing, blowing up your opponent's field, all in main phase 1, and they can't do anything about it. Yeah, I think Mist need to stay at 1. Soul Eating Oviraptor is going to be your secondary normal summon of the deck, which in some cases can probably be the best normal summon of the deck, just depending on what your hand is. Utilizing his second effect to destroy a dinosaur on the field to reborn another dinosaur gives you extra value with Megalo here. So if you guys do have an instance where you're actually holding Soul Eating Oviraptor and you also open with your Jurax Stego, one thing you can do is normal summon Oviraptor, search for Megalo, special summon Megalo from your hand, and use the effect of Megalo to discard your Stego and another card to draw 2 cards. And then once that happens, you can bring back your Jurax Stego while also setting off the effect of your Jurax Megalo, sending your Astero to the grave. So you're good at any point in time. You would go Soul Eating Oviraptor and you would search for Megalo while also having a Jurax Stego in hand. So just keep that interaction in mind. Moving on to Baby Cerosaurus, I understand, you know, pop the baby and all this other stuff, but I really only ever needed to probably ever do this maybe once a game. And it's not like I needed to do it to win any game within the Jurrac deck. So I only played this card at 1, never missed it, never wanted to go into Pterodon or anything like that. This is the only card I really wanted to play at 1 of, because it complements Soul Eating Oviraptor, Meteorosaurus, as well as your Ground Xeno. So I wanted to be able to take advantage of that whenever I needed to, but I never wanted to play more than 1 Baby Cerosaurus. Now, Tyranno Infinity. A lot of you guys might be scratching your head like, yo, why are you playing that card? For the simple line of text, all it says is it basically gains 1,000 attack for each banished dinosaur that you control. So what we see here is Miscellaneousaurus, and typically I wait to use Miscellaneousaurus on my turn. So let's just say if I go first, I make my board, I pass it to my opponent, they go, I blow their field up a lot, you know, banishing dinosaurs for Juracastero's effect, and then the turn passes back to me. And if I had not used Mist Effect and Grave, I would banish Mist and 3 other dinosaurs to bring out Tyranno Infinity and attack my opponent for game. At that point there, when you do Mist Effect, that's already 4,000 attack, not counting the dinosaurs you banished on your opponent's turn for your Jurracastero. So in many cases, when the turn passes back to me after I've devastated my opponent's field at least 2 to 3 times with global destruction, I'm left in a position where, well, they're left in a position where they can't even defend themselves. So once the turn passes back to me, I activate Mystic Effect to special summon Tyranno Infinity, and at that time, Tyranno Infinity is normally a 7,000 attack, 9,000 attack. This is depending on how many cards are banished at that point, and I'm just gonna attack for game. And I've been doing that consistently for weeks in and weeks out at my locals, landing me a first place finish with this deck. Moving on, let's talk about the spell cards that support dinosaurs. So first, we're gonna talk about Ground Xeno. Ground Xeno is a cracked card when you mix this card with Jurax, because you can essentially search for your interruption on your opponent's turn and kick it off immediately on your turn. So you activate Ground Xeno, searching yourself for any tuner Dinosaur. So that can be Xeno, it can be Megalo, or it can be a Halo. I don't know why you want to search that, but the option is there. And then you can destroy the card that you actually search. So in many cases, I found myself searching for a Megalo from Ground Xeno and destroying it and getting the value of Jurrac Megalo when it's destroyed by sending a Sterile to the graveyard. But it is a very, very good card. I've been trying to work ways into, you know, using the fusion effect from the grave and things like that, but I just have not got around to working it into the deck, not knowing that it might need it or might not. Just I have not got there, but stay tuned for any updates if I can find a way to do that. The last 3 cards for the support is the 3 Fossil Dig, which search majority of this deck, guys. So this is a really good card. The fact that it's at 3 is really, really confusing to me, seeing as, you know, Misk is in the game and things like that. But I can honestly see Misk going up in numbers while this going down in numbers if Konami wanted to play with the ratios. So that does it for all the dinosaurs and the dinosaur support for this deck list. Let's move over into the non-engine of the deck. All right, guys, here we are with the non-engine I decided to play for my Jurrac deck. And believe it or not, this was one of the hardest non-engines to build for the deck, only because it did not become clear to me what I really wanted my non-engine to truly do in the Justice Hunters format. So let me explain what I mean by that. So let's just get it out of the way. Any deck that can play Dominus Impulse should be playing Dominus Impulse. It's just that critical of a card. There were cards I wanted to play that actually went against Impulse, cards like Drolling Wild Bird or either Ghost Bill for the Dracotail matchup and decks like that. But I ultimately decided against it and went with Dominus Impulse in tangent with Infinite Impermanence. So it took me a while to actually come to that conclusion, but I had to play a couple games of the Justice Hunters format to truly understand that. Now, let's talk about Purulia and Fularos in Jurax. Normally, in any other deck, when you draw Fularos and or Purulia, when you're going first, that's really a bad way to be. And you probably won't get a chance to activate either one of these cards if you're making your full board and you're passing it to your opponent. But that is absolutely not the case for Jurax here. So if I make my full board, I'm normally in with an Estero on board, a Jurac Volcano on board, another Estero in the grave, so that's my second one, and a Jurac Impact on the field. Now, if I'm holding Fularos or Purulia, I have a chance to actually resolve these cards by just destroying my field and then activating them after all the cards have been destroyed on my field. As you guys know, Jurac Impact destroys all cards on the field, and Jurac Meteor destroys all cards on the field and has an optional effect to special summon a tuner from the grave. Typically, if I'm holding Fularos in hand, I'll forego that, but that's only if I have that other Estero in grave after I activate the first Estero from the grave to special summon Meteor. So that gives me a second chance to actually play my Fularos or my Purulia from the hand, but that's after my opponent have already made the commitment to play into the board from the very beginning, which can be very, very huge of kicking your opponent into a different line of play after they've already committed resources into going one way with their mindset on starting out their turn. So that's very, very huge for Jurax to be able to actually play these cards after drawing them on your initial first turn. But let's finish this whole thing out. So we got 3 Ash, 3 4, 2 Purulia, 1 Nibiru. I'm playing in the 1 Nibiru because I actually want to draw into it off my Marchamis, and it's also a good target for cross-out designator when we decide to go for our Jurax Stego play. Dominus Impulse is a must play in this deck if you can play it. I can understand if you guys have not been able to get Dominus Impulse to work in this deck, but I found the sweet spot where I was able to get it to work, and it's been very, very good. Infinite Impermanence, at the start of this format, I was very iffy on this card. Very, very iffy about putting it even in Jurax. But once I started to play into the Justice Hunters format, I was like, man, this card is actually not that bad. Being able to hit your opponent's Dracotail fusion monster, was it Altherion, allowing them not to gain back the resources they drop to the grave can be just enough to seal the game against any deck, like against Dracotail, honestly. One call by the grave is here to hit, you know, the Ash Blossoms, the Fools, the Perulias, and cards like that. So I really wanted to stay on the call by the grave, and I wanted to give my deck a second chance with playing Cross-Out Designator because it's so critical. I feel like with these two cards being in the same deck with Mist is very unfair for your opponent. Very, very unfair. Of course, I always side these cards out going second and third. Well, going second, I side these cards out for sure. But this does it for my non-engine. I hope I was able to fully explain about the Fularos and the Perulias inside of Jurax. But with that being done, this concludes the main deck of my Jurac deck. Let's move on to the extra deck. All right, guys, here we are at the extra deck. And this is pretty much your standard Jurac lineup for these 7 cards here. You have your 3 Meteors, your 3 Asteros, with your 1 Velveto. So let's go ahead and talk about it. But before we do, can I get a like for the 3 alternate art Starlight Rare Jurac Meteors here? Of course, there's the QCR that exists, but it's something about this alternate art. It just looks so good in Starlight Rare, guys. So let me get a like down below for that right there. But let's talk about Jurac Meteor. When this card is Synchro Summon, it destroys all cards on the field and special summons a tuner from the graveyard. Now, the tuner that is special summon, it can be any tuner. It can be an Effect Vader, Ghost Ogre, Ash Blossom, it doesn't matter. But primarily what you special summon out for this guy, depending on the game state of the field, is your Xenometeorosaurus or either your level 1 Jurac tuners. But remember when I was talking about using the Marchamis on your opponent's turn? The effect to special summon a tuner from the graveyard is very optional, guys. So you would forego special summoning back a tuner once you blow the board up with Jurac Meteor's effect if you planned on using your Marchamis on your opponent's turn. Let's talk about Dracostero, which you guys have heard me mention so much in this video. And that's for good reason, he's the glue. So Dracostero is a level 10 dinosaur. If this card is Synchro Summon, you can set 1 spell or trap card that mentions Jurac in his name from your deck or graveyard to the field. Now, earlier we discussed Jurac Megalo and his effect to basically discard cards from the hand that mentions Jurac to the grave to draw 2 fresh new cards. And if any one of those cards was a spell or trap card that mentions Jurac, as long as you found your way back to Estero, you're able to get that resource back to your field, guys. So that's really, really good. His on-field effect is when your opponent will spell summon monsters that does not start a chain. So summons like Synchro summons, XYZ summons, Link summons, which is very helpful against Yummy. You can banish 2 dinosaurs from your graveyard to negate the summon of that monster and destroy it. That is a really, really good effect. And the fact that it banishes dinosaurs from the graveyard only helps to fuel the effect of Tyranno Infinity, guys. But he has one more effect that also fuels Tyranno's Infinity attack power gain, which is his graveyard effect. So if this card is in the graveyard on your opponent's turn, you can banish this card along with another Jurac monster from your graveyard to Synchro Summon a Jurac Meteor from your deck. Now, once Jurac Meteor hits the field, he destroys all cards on the field. But that's the main play you're going to be doing on your opponent's turn. And the fact that both the on-field effect and the graveyard effect helps fuels the Tyranno Affinity is going to get you that desired OTK on your next turn, guys, when you bring them out to the field. So moving on, we have the last Jurac Synchro monster, which is going to be your Jurac Velveto, which is only here to help you Synchro climb. His effect is okay. I don't see it coming into play much, but it's okay. Now let's move on to the rest of the extra deck. For the level 10 Synchros, we have 1 Changying. Changying is a very interesting card when it comes to playing in Juracs, because even though Juracs love to destroy cards on the field, Changying has a protection effect that allows you to banish any card from the graveyard to protect him from destruction. Now, once you do that, he's also able to pick apart your opponent's graveyard once cards are banished. Also, just like Tyranno Infinity, he gains attack for all the banished cards that are banished. So he's kind of like a, you know, extra deck boss monster that we go into late game that helps seals the games up for us. Really, really good card. Of course, we played a 1 Typhon and we played a 1 Evolzar Doka. You can play Logia if you want, but I found Doka to be the most useful in this deck list over Logia, but who knows, later on down the line I might actually play Logia. The last XYZ monster, which is a part of some of the combos for this deck, is your Greeniosaurus. Greeniosaurus allows you to burn your opponent when he destroys a card on the field. You can detach to burn your opponent for 1,000, but also when this card is destroyed, you can destroy another card on the field to burn your opponent for 1,000. There's a particular combo line that I've been using for the last couple weeks that takes advantage of that. So he's a very critical and key component to the extra deck. You cannot build this deck without it. I would not build this deck without playing this card in my extra deck. Now moving on to the rest of the extra deck, which I've used very sparingly throughout my tournament runs, which was Promethean Princess, Hida. If you're playing Promethean Princess, you gotta play the Hida. The SP Little Knight is a clutch card, of course. And the last card is Relinquish Anima. If my opponent is playing into my board and they're not respecting the link zones, we will be punishing them with Relinquish Anima if we have the resources to do so. So that does it for my deck profile, guys. I want to appreciate you guys watching my video. If you guys found this informative, please share this video with some of your friends and give this video a like, of course. But I want to thank you guys for watching this video and continue to rock with me. I really appreciate it. This has been your boy, Lord Solar Prime, and I'm out, guys. Peace.